And then the stakes,
So
then you
would
try
you
to add
guys
them
kind
to
of
me.
say that your mother has this need to be screaming?
You know what
I'm
she's
just
trying to get
asking
us
the
to say.
question. I'm just asking the question. I'm not like...
I definitely think that her disciplining comes from an outlet of her stress.
Namaste, Zarna Garg here. Thank you for joining me for the Zarna Garg Family Podcast. All 5 Gargs are in the house right now. And we are so excited to get ready for this next riveting episode that we're not all going to agree on at all, because that's how we are, a little unhinged and extremely disagreeable. First, I have my daughter who's a junior in college, Zoya, in the house. Then I have my son who's a senior in high school, Bridge Garg, in the house. Then Veer, my little one who is a middle schooler in middle school. Okay, sorry. It's so many words in America. And my husband of 25 years, Shalab Garg, who is also in the house. This topic is about something that touches everybody in their life. The issue of birth order. What is the difference between being the oldest, the middle, the youngest? What is the difference? What are the responsibilities of the oldest child versus the youngest child? What is the responsibility and the role of the middle child? I know that my 3 kids have a lot of opinions on all the things related to their birth order, and somehow we got it all wrong in every case. So we're going to get right into it. And
we also have a lot of opinions related to your birth order, Mom, that we should bring up.
What are you talking about my birth order for?
As if I know I'm correct when I say this. I believe you are the youngest sibling in your family.
Can we talk about how I realized this, Bridge?
Yeah, Didi did come up with this.
Recently, I came back because every single day, I call Veer all the time, randomly when I'm in school, because Bridge doesn't pick up and Veer is so reliable and he always picks up, but sometimes he gets upset because he has plans and stuff. Anyways, Veer is so witty and he does not take anybody's anything, right? He is the most fearless. If mom is yelling at Veer just sits there and he's like, either you're right, you're wrong, or he'll decide. He makes objective decisions. He doesn't get afraid.
No, that's not true. You can't talk back at mom when she's screaming.
Okay, that's fair. But I would say that you take it the best out of the 3 of us. Would you say that's true, Veer?
Maybe.
Bridge.
100%.
He takes feedback. Like if mom is yelling, I start crying hysterically. I handle it the worst. Bridge will go off on some adventure. Like we'll leave the house for like a 10-mile walk, and Veer will just sit there. He'll get upset, but you handle it by far the best out of all of us. And I realized recently, where does mom's like passive aggressive, like where does it come from? Like this ability to just say things in such a witty, clever way.
Did you just call her passive aggressive?
No, I didn't mean it like that.
And to add on,
that's what you just did.
The fact that she always needs to claim her correctness. She always needs to.
Every argument.
Every time someone says something, every time dad says something, it's her point. It's her
I just want to let
correctness.
you know that I don't agree with the kids. I'm not in that team.
Oh my God, can you stop, Dad? You're so, like, she
I'm
doesn't
just
compromise.
saying I'm not in that team. This is the kids saying these things to you. Kids, you have to be respectful to your mother.
We are being respectful.
Say these kind of things.
Oh my
We're
God.
not even, okay.
Just stop. You're actually, now you're being like an oldest sibling where you have to, he is the
I
oldest
am
of
the
his
oldest
family.
sibling. I am
Yes,
one
and
of
it
two
shows.
brothers.
And it shows because you're like, ooh, I need to put up this perfect image. That is an oldest sibling thing to do. Anyways, she never compromises. We realize that she's the youngest sibling, and that's also why she's so witty and she can navigate in any circumstance.
And she always has to be right.
I mean, I'm not in the team of the kids, Zarna. I don't agree with any of what they're saying. I don't think you're passive aggressive.
Shalab, you put them up to this. You very, very covertly keep dropping hints around these kids, and they pick up these hints. They think it's their idea.
Oh my God, what are you talking about?
I know exactly the game playing you do behind your back, and you are taught by the world's biggest expert in game playing, your own mother. So it is
Okay,
a very
can we not bring my
tough-
mother into this? That poor woman has done nothing to you or to the kids.
Oh, poor woman. See the subliminal messaging? Do you see how he's branding and marketing your mother-in-law my mother-in-law in your head? So all you kids think, oh, our poor daddy never says anything. Do you see this is what goes on? This is why you guys think
I thought the topic of this podcast was siblings, older versus younger.
Yes, and it is. And we're going to get back to the topic. So Zoya, you have a lot of issues about being the oldest sibling. What is your issue? What is your deal? Why are you always upset about being the older one?
I love being the oldest sibling. I actually feel like it's the core, the crux of my personality is that I'm the oldest sibling. I'm the eldest daughter. I am the classic eldest daughter. Every trope that you could possibly assign, immigrant family, eldest daughter, born in America. Truly, I have probably defined and evidenced every trope there is. I love it. I would say the only thing that's really challenging for me mentally sometimes is I have to be the test bunny for pretty much every single circumstance. And that includes pushing the limits with you, mom, as a parent. I feel like with dad, I get a lot of leeway because I'm his daughter. And I feel like he is like so soft with me in a way that he's not soft with Bridge and Veer. So I would say that the dynamics actually shift because I'm a woman and Bridge and Veer are men, and Bridge is the eldest son, which comes with its own layers of responsibilities. But I would say with you, mom, I have to deal with a lot of pushing back and forth, and then Bridge and Veer get the benefits of that sometimes. And on the flip side, I get to do a lot of experimentation, which is fun in its own way.
So you like being the oldest child, in fact?
I would not be as mature, as type A, as responsible. All of those things I learned from being the eldest sibling. So I absolutely would not change it.
A lot of shade was thrown at me during this opening monologue from your sister. But I'm just gonna, as I always am, I'm gonna be reasonable and just hear it out and process it while I hear from Bridge and Veer what they think about being the middle child and the younger child. Because as people are watching and listening to this podcast, you will hear the passion in her voice as she hurls accusations at her mother. But me, I'm sitting here very kindly and very patiently and taking it all in, which is exactly the story of my life. And I am going to remind myself that it's my job to listen and the kids' job to complain, apparently. And now we're going to hear more from Bridge and Veer, what they think about being the middle child and younger child.
Hold on, really quickly. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I wasn't ever allowed to go on a sleepover or half the things that Bridge and Veer are allowed to do. So I pushed you on that. And now Veer can have sleepovers more than I ever did. So I didn't mean it in a very accusational way. I'm sorry.
We all know what it was. My audience and fan base is extremely intelligent. We all picked up on the anger and the hostility. And I don't know why you guys hang your hat on the stupid sleepover debate that means nothing to anybody. There is a reason you guys have Veer?
Why can't we just have fun? All right, whatever. It doesn't matter. But who's next?
I'm going to go next. Okay. So as everyone knows who's watching this, or if you don't know, you should know, I'm the middle child. I was born 3 years after my sister and 6 years before my brother. So there was a small period of time where I was the youngest child, which I do have some memories of, but mostly for my entire life, I've been the middle child. So as most people know, there's something called middle child syndrome, which is the concept that middle childs are neglected by their parents because while the sister is off trying to get into college and new experiences, the parents have to worry about her. When the younger child is born, they need to worry about making sure the younger child doesn't kill themselves because they're so young and don't understand everything about sharp objects, hot stuff, just generally. So you're left in the middle with no one to look after you because you're too old to get that same care as when you were a baby, and you're too young to be worried about when it comes to your future. So for me, that's definitely been a small part of my life. I feel like I did get a lot more attention than other middle childs in the world, but I definitely feel like there were some parts where I had to learn what it means to be independent in a way that my sister definitely didn't, and the way that my brother doesn't have to nearly as much as I did. Because in my middle school years, everything was about my sister or my brother, because my brother was young and my sister was older. So for me, when we go back to the fighting part, because we actually just bring this up, and it's a good point. It's like when my sister and my mom get into a fight, she cries and it takes forever. It's like World War III every time. And then when me and my mom get into a fight, I just leave. I just leave and we don't talk about it until eventually she apologizes for being crazy. But those are the two.
What are you guys
I'm not part of this.
What is going on? Somehow we should retitle this episode Let's Roast Mom. Are you guys even part of this family? First of all, I don't cry. She's not the only one who cries. I cry too. Just because she makes a big hue and cry about crying, because your whole generation, God forbid one tear fall out of your eye that oh my God, now we need therapy. Now we need medication. Now we need an emotional support animal.
Wait, I want to continue my point. Okay, so the fact that I'm not the type to continue the conversation and just walk away and solve it on my own and come back with a response is really indicative of my situation as a middle child. It definitely shaped, I think everyone's birth order and everyone's family shapes their life, but it definitely also shaped mine in the fact that I have to think a lot more independently. I feel like a lot more independent with my big decisions, especially when it comes to school, when it comes to girls, when it comes to everything. I'm a lot more, I wouldn't say secretive, but a lot more reserved with my takes about all of those things, because I feel like I had to learn all of it by myself. And then the next part is because I was close to my age of my sister, I do get to profit off the fact that she experienced everything first. So I get to see all the mistakes that she made or opportunities she didn't take because she didn't necessarily know she should have. And I get to use that to my advantage. So that's a really good part of being a middle child.
But that's a gift too.
It's a gift.
I love that. I love that about, I love that you get to, I love that you're not going to make the same mistakes going into college that I made. So this is also, that's a gift. Like, that's not a bad thing.
And neither of you would make any mistakes if you just listen to your dad and me. But I just want to point this out.
I'm actually happy you said your dad.
Because you always, that was like some credit.
I'm kind of happy. That's the first time I've ever seen you guys.
Your subliminal messaging of
working.
It's working.
Okay, I'm going next.
Okay.
So as the youngest child, I have like the two, like the best thing and the worst thing in my opinion, out of all three of us. The best thing being that I can piggyback off of all the things that my siblings have either done great on or failed on. And then secondly, like my opinion, it just does not matter. Like I get no say on where to go to a restaurant, and also arguments are crazy. Even though I don't get yelled at as much as them, if I do get yelled at, I'm cooked. Cause I can be arguing to mom about something random and she'll bring up, I saw you didn't eat your vegetables yesterday. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? So it's just the two, it's like the best thing and the worst thing.
That's a specific quirk that your mother has in her personality, where in any fight, she will bring up the entire 25 years or 20 years or 20 years of everything that has occurred leading up to that point to prove that little tiny point of fight that is currently happening.
Why don't we just rename this episode Let's Cook Mom?
No, I mean, it's just...
Clearly, that is exactly where we're headed with this. This now, Veer has to throw shade at me. Apparently, all I'm doing all day long is yelling at everybody. And yes, I am, because that is my main job. That is my day job, my night job. No credit for keeping you guys safe from every scary sleepover that happens, and you don't even know what happens on sleepover. This is a country where people keep guns just for the heck of it.
Never forget when she wanted to get...
in New York, Zarna. New York
guns are illegal. Yes, you cannot buy a gun.
Did you see the guy just shot somebody in the New York City subway? Everybody there, this is a country...
I mean, just because guns are illegal doesn't mean there's no crazy people, but those crazy people is not where these kids would have sleepovers.
Why don't you just go and give kids everything? Why don't you just go buy a paragliding whatever machine and just give it to them right now so they can glide out of our window? You will do anything to get their approval. You will do anything to make me the bad cop and win the title of good cop. That's where this whole episode is going. I can see it very clearly right now. Apparently, I'm the only responsible one in this family who knows how to say no. And even though I am the youngest one of my family, but ask my siblings that when they want to make a good decision and when they want to make a decision that's fully thought through, who do they ask first? Yes, me. Don't look so confused.
We understood it was yourself. Like, we get it.
It was a rhetorical point.
It was a rhetorical point. We understood who it was.
No one seemed to understand as I was very dramatically waiting for you guys to say.
I have a question though, and we never talk about this, so I'm actually really interested in this for both mom and dad. Looking at us in our birth order, oldest child, like, how do you treat us differently because of where we are in the family? Like, how do you treat the situations with Didi differently than me because she was the oldest child?
Mom has answered this before. Remember,
she used to describe it as Zoya is my pride, Bridge is my weakness, and Veer is my joy.
That's what I was talking about.
I used to like that description quite a bit. So Zoya is the pride, Bridge is the joy, and Bridge is the weakness, and Veer is the joy.
So I have a question. Do you expect Didi to make every mistake or success possible and then expect based off of that I learn off of it? Like, if Didi makes a mistake, would you have an expectation for me not to make the same mistake she did?
Yes. Yeah, of course. And she makes a lot of mistakes, so you know not to make them. Yes.
That's got to be some shade.
But like, aren't I entitled to my own mistakes as well? Like the ones
why should you? First of all, Bridge, why would you make mistakes? You have us guiding you. Then you have your sister who does the mistakes, you learn from them. And then you have your little brother who's literally got the wisdom of Oogway from Kung Fu Panda. Literally, this kid was born at 89 years of age. So why would you make any mistake? You're protected on all fronts as far as I'm concerned.
Everyone makes mistakes in life though. Everyone, right? It's not like everyone does. So I think everyone's entitled to their own mistakes. And I think that...
I mean, are you saying that you wish you could make mistakes? Like, I'm a little confused by what it is that you want here.
I wish that
you haven't answered the question. You have not. He asked a very specific question.
What was the question? Repeat the question, because I guess I missed it.
I was just asking how do you view us differently because of our birth order? How do you treat us differently because of our birth order?
I will tell you that I have a lot of guilt about you in particular, my middle child, because it is true that Zoya got a lot of independent one-on-one attention when she was little. The first 3 years of her life was like literally me alone with her, hands on, because dad was working and or hanging out with his friend, one friend, singular. And it was me. Like, we didn't have any help. We didn't have money even for help. And it was like everywhere I went, she went with me. And everywhere, there was a lot. And then when you came around, the attention was definitely divided. When the second kid comes around, you have to drag the second kid around to everywhere that the first kid needs to be. So I have a lot of guilt about like how I was not able to give. Somehow I don't have any guilt about not giving Veer that much attention, the third kid, because I do feel that by the time he came around, the two of you older ones were in the picture and ready to take charge and like take him under your wings. But you, Bridge, my middle child, didn't have that, so I have a lot of guilt. I mean, I tell you guys about this episode one time when your dad was working early or late or something, and I fell asleep. I fell in deep sleep, which almost never happens in my life. Because I'm a mother. No mother ever falls in deep sleep. We are all always sleeping with one eye open. But that day I fell in deep sleep, and apparently you and Zoya were knocking on my door at night, overnight, trying to get in because you, Bridge, had climbed out of the crib and come into outside my room, and Zoya was supposed to be like in charge of you because you two were sharing a room. So then Zoya came running after you, and both of you knocked on my door. I did not open the door, and both of you fell asleep in the floor outside my door. And when I woke up, Zoya was in tears, you were in tears, and you were like, my poor brother ran out of the crib, my poor brother. And I was trying to wake my mother up, and my mother didn't wake up. And she was telling me all of this in third person verbiage, as if like she's talking about some random people. And I'm watching you guys and thinking nothing happened. Everything is fine, relax. But I did have that guilt that moment of my kid just climbing out of a crib by himself would not have escaped me if it was Zoya, because at that time I used to sleep like hyper attention alert. And then with Veer, we just didn't even put him in the crib because we were like, we had you guys watching on both sides. So we were like, somebody's going to catch him. He's going to be fine. But I have a lot of guilt. Like that night, that waking up to see two kids passed out outside my door makes me sad even to this day. And I feel sad that Bridge went through that experience by himself. Even though I don't know if you remember it even. How could you? You were probably like 2-3 years old.
Yeah, I don't even remember it. Where was I?
That's a good question, Shalab.
Hang out with your friend.
I mean, I don't hang out with friends.
Okay,
I love how she singled out friends. That's so funny.
I want to ask a furthermore question, because me and Didi talk about this all the time. Do you guys feel like you treat Veer, like you give Veer special privileges that me and Didi just did not get?
Yeah, somewhat, because he deserves them. I mean, he's a very mature kid. Now, that maturity may partly be a function of having watched the two of you ahead of time and learned from you, being the youngest kid. But whatever the reason be, he's just way mature. I mean, he will take special care before he steps out and does something. Way more so than the two of you ever did. So that he deserves that special treatment.
I don't agree with that. It's not that he doesn't. I don't think we give him any special treatment. That's what I think.
Okay.
but it feels like you two, the older two, have an opinion on that. So it feels like you two don't agree with me saying I don't give him special treatment.
definitely think you guys
I
give him
see
special
Zoya
treatment.
rolling her eyes. Like her eyes are rolling so hard they're about to go into the back of her brain. And I see Bridge like,
Tell me
because
how.
when I said I don't
Because when you guys get into fights, it's never as bad as when me and Didi do. Never,
Because I
ever
never
even
did
comes
anything.
close.
What did I do?
You can't act like you've never made a mistake. I never do anything. Most of our fights, I never do anything. Most of Didi's fights, she never does it. Today, Mom screamed at Didi for basically doing nothing before the podcast.
Like, oh my God, Bridge, just swoop right in. Just swoop right in for your sister's approval.
He's right. He's right. He's right in the sense that it's true. It is true. First of all, there is truth on both sides. First, it is true that I have my own privileges being the oldest sibling. There's no doubt about it, right? Like, I do get a lot more of mom's attention, for sure. Or I did get a lot more of mom's attention. And like, there are other things that I get because I'm the oldest sibling. But with Veer, I do feel like a lot of things slide in a way that with Bridge, not to say Veer, you're a very responsible kid, but everybody makes mistakes. And when Bridge and I make a mistake, it feels like the level of seriousness with which it's taken is out of proportion with what happens with Veer. And I do think that maybe you just don't feel like you need to discipline him as much because you know that we're also watching. You know that Bridge is watching and monitoring his Fortnite, and I'm watching who he's hanging out with and if he's doing his homework. Like, I'm always texting with Suzanne to see like what the status is, how he's doing, all that stuff. I emailed his teacher.
You never told me that.
Because I don't need to tell you that. That's information I absolutely text
That's
Suzanne.
ridiculous. There's no way
I
you
need to
text
check
Suzanne.
if you're actually doing your homework. You can ask
that's
her.
insane. I'm stopping that immediately. That's completely ridiculous. Why are you texting Suzanne instead of Mom?
Do you see what I live with? These kids, the older
Oh my God, Mom. See, this is the special treatment that Veer gets. This is
the special
exhibit
treatment.
A of the textbook treatment that you
And
just...
on top of that, that was the youngest sibling in you thinking, oh, let me just like get in there so that I can just make my argument so that I'm right again.
And make it like a friend, like an ally.
You never, make an ally because God forbid you actually just say, I'm sorry. Do you know how many times I say sorry in our fight today? I said, I'm so sorry. Like, I just want to get on with the day. And you're still screaming at me now.
You never said sorry, first of all. You never said sorry.
I did.
Shalab, you have something you want to say, or you're just going to watch this like as we rip each other to shreds?
No, I just think that, that you all have interesting points.
Oh, okay.
So oldest sibling of you. So oldest son.
I mean, I feel like I have no special privileges.
Why am I going to get into this? He's literally sitting there thinking, you know what? They're all going to kill each other. Why am I going to be a bad cop at all? And he's just sitting there as if he's so freaking objective and has no opinions.
I said I feel like I have no special privileges. Didi brought up her special privileges. We pointed out Veer's special privileges. I feel like I have no special privileges. It is a fact that in this family, and when it comes to who has gotten disciplined the most, it has been me by far.
You were also the most injury-prone, Bridge. I think you've had more visits to the hospital than, and touch wood, nobody else has, than anybody else in this family. As an infant, as a teen, as an adult, in every possible way, you've had trips to the hospital.
If regardless of hospital trips, though, or whatever, medical stuff, it is a fact that I've been screamed at for stuff that I feel like there's been a lot of times I shouldn't have been screamed at for.
Give an example.
Like, for example, one time when I was testing, I didn't bring a physical eraser. There was an eraser on my pencil, but I didn't bring a physical eraser, and Mom screamed at me for a long time because it showed my unpreparedness. But I was just like, I don't need a physical eraser. My pencil has an eraser. And that was a huge argument that we got. I never forgot it. I think I was
I can't
12
believe
years old,
you would
11
scream
years
at him
old.
for something like that.
Yeah, I'm on Balia's side.
Like, why do you need a second eraser if there is an eraser?
If you have an eraser on your pencil.
When he says testing, he was taking a standardized test that he needed to be prepared for, that I had sent him.
But there is an eraser in the pencil, right? That's the whole purpose of it.
Okay, all right, okay.
Did that not work, the eraser, Bridge?
It does. I think that sometimes you just use me as an outlet.
Hey, that's true. I do think that, Bridge, you get a lot of disciplinary action, but this isn't an episode on just like Mom and how Mom treats us differently. I mean, Dad, how do you feel like you treat Bridge Veer and I differently.
I thought that you guys always loved the fact that I always treated each one of you as a human being as opposed to a child, right? I always made sure that even as young teens, you made your own decision with respect to the food that you want to eat, your own decision with respect to your hobbies, your own decision with respect to your sports. Now, your mother always saw that as laziness and indifference. I was raised that same way too. My mother would always leave me alone to do my own thing, however I chose to do it. And that meant that, whatever studying, but it also brings with it a certain amount of responsibility. The child feels entitled that they have to do what's right for them on their own and helps them grow. So I don't know which of the two is the right way, but that's how I was raised too. And my brother was too. And, both of us have done pretty well. So I don't know.
Your dad knows that he can afford to be the guy who's like, you guys take care of it yourself, because he knows he's got me in the background hovering over everybody constantly. And I'm just going to say this, so can your dad's mom can also afford to be like, well, I didn't ask them to do anything. They just figured it out themselves, because again, she knows that I'm sitting there tying every loose end up. So things.
No, you were not there when we were growing up. What do you mean?
That is true. But I'm talking about the last 25 years, right? Daddy has not had to step in.
I'm saying that when we were my kids' age, my brother and I, my mother and my father, both of us used to leave us alone and let us decide what's best for us or not best for us, even as very young kids. I mean, not when we were infants, obviously, but when we were teens, 13, 14, 15 and onwards, we pretty much decided for ourselves. And that brought a certain amount of responsibility, and a sense of, maturity that is worth a lot. And, I'm not sure that that's the worst way of parenting. Now, you could say in retort to that perhaps, as a family, we would not be as close to each other as the way you've managed to create for our kids. And maybe you would be right about that. But irrespective, that's to answer your question, Bridge. I do think that I like the idea of treating you as, real human beings as opposed to just kids.
Can you stop saying real human beings as if I don't treat them like real human beings? Like, you keep saying real human beings as if like I'm treating them like pets.
Do you mean adults?
Yes, that's what he means.
That's what I mean.
Say adult. Humans beings and adults are different things.
Okay.
Anyway, I mean, we don't need to get into this. Your dad and I obviously don't agree. And Bridge, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I do think that you've been disciplined the most of the three kids here. But you've also pushed edges the most.
That's what I was going to say.
Like, Zoya used to do city bike, and then I used to be like, you're not going to do city bike. And the fight lasted very short amount of time when she stopped doing city bikes. But you, for a long time, went on with it, and then we had to negotiate and be like, okay, you'll do it under these circumstances, not under those circumstances. You have wanted more freedom in general than either of the two kids that I know of just yet.
I wouldn't say it like that. What I would say is that when I was in my formative years, when it comes to this, I was given all the freedom because of the lack of attention. So then when you started to try to take that freedom away, it felt weird. It felt like, why are you trying to take the freedom away that I've had my whole life now? So then it was like, oh, you're trying to prohibit my city bike. No, that's what I've been doing. Why now are you trying to prohibit it? And then we're talking specific to city bike right now. I mean, most topics when it comes to what freedom's trying to take away, where it was like, sometimes when I was young, I used to stay on my phone up until late at night. And then later you started to be like, okay, now you'd come into my room and be like, oh, it's 12 o'clock. Why are you still on your phone? And I'd be like, what do you mean? And then you try taking it away. And I think with stuff like that, after I had already had so much freedom, but you're trying to take it away, it just felt wrong.
Would you say that happened when I graduated and you became the eldest sibling in the house?
100%.
So this 100%. Is a real phenomenon. This is a very real phenomenon. I don't know what it's called. It probably has no actual name. But when it's been the case where when the first kid leaves, right, the next kid gets all the attention that the first kid had been dealing with. So actually, Bridge, what you got was a glimpse into my beautiful life.
What happened is that the stakes got higher. That's why I came. Like, when you're 12 and you're on your phone for an extra hour or two, you're in 6th or 7th grade, it's not the end of the world. But you're in 9th, 10th, 11th grade where we are actively working to transition you into this adulthood life. The stakes are a little bit higher. Now you need to have now a lot of American people watching this will say, but you are responsible, you, me, mom are responsible for creating good habits. But I gave you guys a lot more leeway. And even we right now might be thinking, well, no one says anything to me. But because I know their limits,
Brian says something to me. I'm not talking about you.
Okay. But I don't, right? Because right now I'm not so worried about Veer. But as soon as he gets closer to high school and starts transitioning to a world where he's going to be a responsible citizen out into the world soon, I have to get involved and start doing things and taking responsibility for all of you. That's what really happens. Nothing to do with Zoya leaving to go to college and whatever other fakata thing she came up with. The reason that condition has no name is because it's not a condition.
I actually think that I rarely say this, but I think you're just genuinely wrong about this thing. And that's because I think that even when we were young, when I was younger and Veer was younger and Didi was at my age when I was allowed to stay up for an extra hour with my phone, or you didn't care, you still put those stakes on Didi. Even when she was before high school, those stakes were always on her. You were always watching over her to make sure she was doing the right thing since birth, right? It only transitioned when she left and you couldn't do that because even though you track her when she's in California, you cannot scream at her in person when she's in California. And then it got put on me. But I think that with her, the stakes were always there. And then the stakes, then you try to add them to me.
Say that your mother has this need to be screaming?
You know, I mean,
I'm just asking the question. I'm just asking the question. I'm not like...
I definitely think that her disciplining comes from an outlet of her stress. I'll say that. I wouldn't say that she enjoys to scream, but I wouldn't say that she thoroughly.
Okay, Bridge. Okay, I don't know how to say like not thoroughly enjoying the screaming. Like apparently my screaming has no purpose. Why don't I just move out of this house and you guys just live according to dad's bit? Like throw things all over the house, eat something, don't eat something, eat. You know what? Eat steak 5 times a day and go live your life that way. Then
hold on, Didi. I have a question for you, Didi. Once you left for college and you had so you went from not being able to spend that extra hour on your phone to being able to do whatever you want because mom wasn't there to scream at you. Did you end up start using that extra hour to be on your phone or did you end up staying with the standards that mom set for you?
I have never had that freedom. Bridge is absolutely correct. I've never had the freedom of having no extra time on my phone. I was always doing workbooks literally 24/7 to the point that I can recite certain math notebooks for you if you wanted me to. I just never had that freedom where I wasn't constantly being watched. And I think that there's a lot of good that comes with it. And I would say that even in college.
But who's watching you now in college?
Who's watching me now? Bridge, who's watching me now?
It's not even about that mom is still watching her. It's the fact that because mom engraved these things into her, she never let her do it. It's now that's just part of, she doesn't know any other lifestyle. She doesn't understand. I mean, I don't know. I can't answer this for you. Just based on the way I view your situation with mom is that you just because it was so attached and she was so controlled over you, she was giving you so much attention, you just don't know what it feels like to not have it. So she's not going to go on her phone for the extra hour now. So, I mean, it worked parenting wise, but it's just she's always going to feel like mom's watching over her. That's how I think of it.
I think that, I definitely think that our relationship changed a lot when I went to college because I was navigating choosing things for myself for the first time. And I made some bad decisions. I made some good decisions. And I've definitely been able to make more mistakes in college in a way that I did not and was not able to in high school and at home. And I think that's huge. I really, really, really think it was amazing that I went to college in a completely different state where I couldn't come home all the time because I would. And so I don't know. I think that I don't really break many of the rules. I don't know. I feel like I do a lot of the things that mom wants me to do. And when I make a decision, I don't make a decision for myself. I always make a decision thinking, what would my mom want me to do? And for better or for worse, that is how my brain operates.
I mean, just to put it in perspective, wait 1 second. Just to put it into perspective, how close my sister and my mom are. My sister, she's at New York City right now because she's back on spring break. She was telling me, I sent my mom a text, or sent our mom a text about something in particular yesterday. So let me just go find it so I can show you. She was scrolling. I think you scrolled at least 100 times to get to that one text from one day ago. I couldn't believe it. One text from one day ago. And she's just going, oh, it's somewhere here. It's somewhere here. And then she was like, she keeps scrolling. And then finally she finds it. And that's not normal. She's a college student. She's 21 years old, about to go in the adult life, like about to go out of college. And that is the situation she's in. Just to put it into perspective.
That is insane. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, but Bridge, did you hear her when she said that when she first went to college and made her own decisions, how bad her decisions were?
That's not what she said. That's not what she said. She said she made good and bad decisions.
No. Zoya said, I made a lot of bad decisions, and then my mom's words came ringing back inside my head. That is exactly what we have it on tape. I'm going to make them highlight it in this episode right now. We have it on tape.
I love that you're not going to make the same mistakes going into college that I made. So this is also, that's a gift. Like, that's not a bad thing.
And it's okay. I'm saying it's okay. I'm happy to be of service. That is my job. So yeah, but let's not, you know what I mean? Like, I get a lot of heat for always hovering over all of you guys, and maybe I don't. Bridge, maybe you're right. Maybe I don't hover over you as much as I hover over Zoya. And I definitely don't Veer, because I have the two of you, and Bridge has taken a very active role in hovering over Veer. And I'm not sure what you do, Sharaf, in terms of disciplining the kids. I'm not sure. Like, you just think everybody should do everything in this household. I don't know why you have this like very European American mindset. They should all have sleepovers. They should all go skiing. All these things.
What's wrong with sleepovers?
We're not gonna like go through this. We're gonna do a whole episode on sleepovers if you want. I mean, but we're not gonna get into this. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this riveting episode of birth orders and how the oldest, middle, youngest child situation fits into your life paradigm. I certainly learned a lot about what my children think of me today, because we could very easily rename this episode Cooking Mom, as our producer has suggested, because that's where this somehow ended up. But I want to hear from you guys. What's your experience in your families? What's your experience with your parents, with your kids? And as we end every episode with a rapid fire segment titled Good Grades with Gargs, where each one of us Gargs assigns an A grade to another Garg based on who brought the winning moment in the episode, the most educational, entertaining, or just the highlight of the episode. We would like to hear from each other who gets that episode, and we would like to, more importantly, hear from you. So who's ready to assign good grades?
I'm ready. So I'm going to give my grade
Hold on. Shalab, can you hold on? Because Zoya wanted to go and you just got into her. And see, you do this to the kids all the time, but they say nothing to you. If I had done it right now, the daggers would have been pulled out.
I don't know what's going on. I don't understand this. That is you being protective of Didi. This is, again, another exhibit of you being protective of Didi. Didi raised her hand and Dad raised her hand. He spoke, she didn't, and now you're protecting Didi. You spotlight her.
Is that
you just spotlight her. I'm just pointing it out that you spotlight.
Okay.
Sorry for cussing.
Okay, Zoya, are you ready to go? It sounds like there is some brother-sister issue here that I'm not involved in.
No, there is no brother. Do not try and pit me. Bridge is one of my only allies. And even Veer's his own independent territory. And so I need one ally in this clan. And so I would say I was going to give my A grade actually to Mom, which never, ever happens. I don't know if I ever gave it to Mom, but I will say this woman somehow has the energy after all the work that she does with us in, at home, raising us, cutting every vegetable, like manning a house of all of us. You did it all, from summer camp to taekwondo to swimming to my brief stunt with squash to golf to all of the different sports and foods and friends. And you've never ever made at least me feel like you treated me poorly because of my birth order. So like, I feel like I can't speak for Bridge and Veer, but I feel like I got the best of what it was like to be an oldest sibling, and there was no real bad, like really, really bad thing. And really what I wanted to highlight was how energetic you are, because in order to scream, somehow you have to have endless amounts of energy. And I don't know where you get it, because you're doing so much all the time. So thank you, I guess, for screaming at us. And that's all.
I mean, that felt like a very backhanded compliment, but I will.
Yeah, I was
still
gonna say.
thank you. Thank you. Okay, who wants to go next?
I was gonna go first, so I'll go next now. So I'll give mine to Zarna as well. I think that raising these 3 kids in New York City has not been easy. And the first 20 years, I mean, the last few years, I've been a spectacular dad too. But in the years leading up to it, for sure, so I have to give mine to Zarna. No question about it.
Thank you, Shalab. Every audience woman, every mom in the audience is now deciding, oh, Shalab, what a nice, understanding husband. So thank you. You went there and you got their votes. Thank you. Who's going next? Bridge?
I'll go next. I think I'm going to give my A grade to Didi. I just think the philosophy of how mom being a youngest child affects so many of her decisions, like it gave me a whole new perspective of mom. It was just such a genius idea. Like so smart that it just gave me a whole new perspective on mom.
I could have just told you. I don't know why this had to be like this deep revelation.
But she connected it to like how your decisions and how one affects the other. And I just think it was just such a smart connection. And I think, speaking to all the fans out there, I think you should all identify if your parents have siblings and what their birth order was, just so you can think of it for yourself and how your parents, when they were born, might affect their decisions and how that could happen.
It's so reassuring because it's like, oh, mom doesn't want to compromise because the same way viewer doesn't want to compromise. And I always compromise because I'm trying to, like, the way dad was just like, oh, I don't know. I'm just like listening and I don't want to get in
compromise.
trouble.
What do you mean? You just don't agree with any of my compromises.
Bro, Veer is the worst compromiser I've ever met in my life.
My compromises are good. What do you mean?
Okay, Veer, who's your A grade go to?
My A grade will go to dad. I don't really know why. I just feel like he was funny.
That was honest.
That's a good reason. Because he was funny is a good reason. That's a good reason to give an A grade.
I appreciate the honesty, Veer, that like I don't really know why. That is probably by the end of like filming these episodes, by the end we've forgotten who said what. Certainly I have to like remind myself what was the moment that like stuck out in my mind, because so many daggers were thrown at me. I was just trying to stay alive and not bleed to death emotionally during this episode. So especially during this one, I don't remember. But if I had to, I guess on the margin, I would give the A grade for this episode to Bridge, because he was the most vulnerable and open and honest about how he felt about being a middle child. There is a middle child syndrome and there is a reality to being a middle child. And I think the way Bridge articulated it was the most artful and thoughtful way that I've heard it be described, where he's constantly trying not to hurt people's feelings. He's trying to balance the line in typical middle child fashion of saying what he wants to say without being so rude and disruptive to the family dynamic that feelings are hurt all around. So I see that my son is trying to walk that tight line and is doing it very successfully. And for that gets the A grade from me today. And I want to hear from everybody who's watching this episode, whether you're the oldest, the youngest, tell us your story. We want to hear. You won't believe this, but we read every comment. We respond to every comment and we try to learn from you guys what more you want from us, how we can integrate better topics and comments. And we are curious about, so many of you have commented on all our episodes. So now we are learning more about your lives through that section. Bring your friends into this story and this journey with us. Thank you so much for listening and watching wherever you're participating in our family podcast. And goodbye from the Gargs. Everybody say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.